Serious, what was your biggest "we need to leave now" moment? When I was about 16, I went to visit my grandmother at her place. The smell of natural gas was intense. Even though Nana didn't seem to notice it much. She was groggy, sort of half asleep, not her usual responsive self. So I made her get out of the house at once and open the windows and doors. I called Dad and he reported it to the gas company, who sent inspectors right away. They shut off the gas valve in the street immediately and sent a repair crew to fix a leaking joint in a gas supply pipe. The inspector said that if I hadn't acted then and there, the probability was great that there would soon have been an explosion. Showed up to a party. Some people were outside fighting. My GF at the time and I decided to leave. Not long after that, some guys that were a part of the first fight came back with more and a shooting occurred. Woodstock 99. Felt the energy of the grossly overpacked crowd. The building raged. And looked my friends and said we need to go. They stayed. I left. Shortly after, fired and riots started and my friends lost everything they had with them. Tents, clothes, food, everything. When you have 300k people shoulder to shoulder in 104-degree humidity and charge $4 for a bottle of water and have half as many bathrooms as needed, you're gonna have a bad time. So I was waiting at the train station to pick up a friend of mine. I was early, so I decided to stand in the sun right outside of the station. A guy with a bicycle walked up to me asking in broken English if I knew how late the train would arrive. After I answered the question, he stayed around and started talking to me. Now I know that's not weird at all, but the things he asked and the way he acted and looked just gave me a creepy vibe. Eventually he asked if I would walk with him while he dropped his bicycle off. I didn't want to because the place to store bicycles at this station is very secluded, and to be honest I didn't want to be alone with this guy. So I noped out and walked into the station. He started yelling at me, calling me names, but at that moment the train came in and it got very busy. So he left. A few months later I read this article in the local paper about a girl being raped at the station. They had put a drawing of a guy next to the article as he was not yet caught. It was the same guy. To this day I'm very happy I didn't go with him. Grocery shopping with my grandma. She's tired, normal for her, but she's getting a bit slower and dragging her leg more than usual. At the checkout counter I saw her face was a little droopy and I said we are leaving now and going to ER. They gave her a bottle of water for the car ride, which she ended up choking on and vomiting up all the water. Called ahead to ER, so they were ready and they took care of her ASAP. She was having a stroke and they were able to help her quick enough so that she didn't have any long-lasting issues. About 2 months ago I stayed up past my usual bedtime, and as soon as I got in bed I smelled something odd and was hearing some inconsistent banging and clattering from downstairs. I don't live in a great neighborhood, so none of this was unusual, but I got out of bed to check anyway and saw flames licking up the side of the building. Yelled at my wife to get out of bed and threw on some clothes and we hightailed it out. Our building has a shared wall with the next end that one had an apartment on the ground floor fully engulfed by the time we made it outside. Ended up condemning the whole building. I was the first one to call 911. Have been jerking myself awake in the night pretty consistently since then. My friend and I, both females, met up our first time back home from college. It was a surprisingly nice day outside in the middle of winter, so we decided to get lunch and eat outside. We found a park that had no one there and were sitting at a picnic table catching up when I see a scruffy-looking guy in a large work van with no rear windows pull into the parking lot. I didn't pay a whole lot of attention to him at first, but I noticed he was moving around the outside of the van for a bit and he kept looking our way. He finally walked down the sidewalk toward us and passed by our picnic table and walked around the back side of the restroom building to look down the hill on the other side of it, very obviously casing out the place. He walked back to his van and me and my friend were discussing what we were going to do while I watched him open up the back of the van and start digging around it. He made a call on his cell phone and a few minutes later another male pulled up in a different car. He got out and started talking to the first guy, who not very discreetly pointed our direction. They immediately started walking toward us, and my friend and I scooped what was left of lunch and fast walked out of the place while keeping an eye on them. One of the times in my life I could literally feel the hair on the back of my neck standing on end. It could have been nothing. But even now I feel pretty certain that they had something planned, and I am glad we left. I was in college when I had my first solo apartment. This guy across the hall would come over, or invite me over, and we'd hang out a few times. However, I would not call him a friend. One night he asks me to loan him some money. In addition to not wanting to loan him money, I don't really have any. So he proceeds to ask for a ride to see his girlfriend because she has some money for him. I agree. We arrive at her apartment and a small party is going on. When we walk into the party, everyone immediately shuts up and stares at us. He runs off to find his girlfriend, who I find out is his ex-girlfriend. It is awkward because I'm kind of this guy's friend by association, and I'm getting lots of angry stares. He gets into an argument with her and we are basically thrown out of this place. He then asks if I can take him to another part of town. He owes another guy some money and needs to go talk to him. We proceed to an unfamiliar part of town, and he instructs me to park in a fairly isolated spot. He explains that he doesn't want the other guy to see my car, because he might take it. He owes this guy money for gambling or drugs or something else bad, and he is way behind on his payments. I left him and spent the rest of my time in that apartment avoiding him. Girls' camp. My last year, me and a small group of girls wanted to climb to the top of this big hill that has a beautiful lookout above the trees and clear view of the sky. It was a new moon and zero light pollution. We grabbed our flashlights and got on the trail. About 3/4 of the way up, the two girls leading us stopped dead in their tracks at the same time. One whispered to the other, "Do you feel that?" I was right behind them and heard what they said. I looked up and around. I didn't see anything, but something in the air made the hair on my neck stand on end. It was just too quiet. I started to feel very vulnerable and scared. One of the girls in front turned and said, "We need to go back. Don't run." One girl asked why not run, and they said, "So you don't trip." Valid reason, but I don't believe it was the real reason she said it. When I was 15, a friend and I went for a lot of walks around town, small town, around 5-6K people. We were going to the cyber cafe in town to meet a few friends, and we often took different streets to get places, just to keep it interesting. We were about to go to Main Street off one of the side streets, and a man on a bicycle approached us. He got off his bike and asked us a couple small talk questions. Something didn't seem right about him. He was probably mid-40s. We both kept inching away but didn't want to come off as too rude, so we answered about the weather or traffic. Then he paused and we said we had to go. And he said, "And I'll never forget it, you look so young. I don't want to get in trouble, but I need to touch someone. I just need to touch you. You should come with me." And he started rambling. I just felt terror. Couldn't even speak. I grabbed my friend's hand and turned. We sprinted the rest of the way to the cafe, and as soon as we were inside we asked to use the phone. I called my mom to pick us up while my friend told the worker what happened and what the guy looked like. A month later I got my first cell phone. Visiting Kowloon in Hong Kong. I ended up walking all day until my feet were killing me. It got dark outside and I was tired, so I decided to drop by a decent looking bar for a drink and a moment to rest my feet. It was all empty except a group of serious looking local men in suits. They kept leering at me the whole time. The most awkward beer I ever had. None of them said a word, but I got the message. You're not supposed to be here. Wilo. My friends and I stopped at a 7-Eleven around midnight in a sketchy neighborhood. We'd taken a wrong turn and were trying to find our way back to the highway. Two police officers were getting coffee and donuts. A group of local youths came in, kind of roughly messing with each other. The police officers looked at them, looked at us, looked at each other, and power walked out of the store. My friends and I decided not to complete our snack food purchases and made to leave, and then one of the youths yelled to his friends that we'd called him a racial epithet, when we hadn't even spoken to them. I'm glad my car started on the first try. and glad no one was coming the other way as I ran a couple stop signs.